Hello, dear friend. Welcome back to English Talks with Avie. Relax, listen, and improve your English.
Hello, my dear friend. Welcome back. Today, we are going to travel through time. Every 4 years, the entire planet stops. Billions of people sit in front of televisions, radios, and computer screens. Strangers hug each other in the streets, and people cry tears of joy or sadness. This is the FIFA World Cup. But it did not start with billions of dollars and giant stadium screens. It started almost 100 years ago in a rainy South American city with a small group of brave men and a big dream. Let's open the history books and discover how the world learned to play together. The story begins in July 1930 in Montevideo, the capital city of Uruguay. A Frenchman named Jules Rimet had a big dream. He was the president of FIFA. He believed that football could bring countries together after the terrible pain of the First World War. For years, he talked to different football associations, and finally, his dream became real. Uruguay was chosen to host the very first World Cup. Why did FIFA choose Uruguay? Well, there were two very important reasons. First, Uruguay was the best football team in the world at that time. They won the gold medal at the Olympic Games in 1924 and again in 1928. Second, the year 1930 was very special for the country. It was the 100th anniversary of Uruguay's first constitution. The government promised to build a brand new, massive stadium for the tournament, and they agreed to pay for all the travel costs of the visiting teams. When the news reached Europe, many countries were not happy. Europe was suffering from a big economic crisis, the Great Depression. Money was very tight, and businesses did not want their football players to leave their jobs for 2 whole months. Many famous teams like England, Italy, Spain, and Germany said no to the invitation. They thought the journey was too long and too dangerous. Jules Rimet spent months trying to change their minds. He called friends, wrote letters, and used all his energy to save his dream. In the end, only 4 European teams agreed to make the trip: France, Belgium, Romania, and Yugoslavia. It was a small victory for Rimet, but it was enough to start the dream at that time. It was a very different tournament from today. There were no qualifying matches. Teams did not have to win games to enter. Instead, Jules Rimet sent letters of invitation. Traveling across the world was difficult and expensive in 1930. European teams had to travel together on a large boat across the Atlantic Ocean for 2 weeks. Because of the long journey, only 13 nations participated in total. On July 13, 1930, the first match began. A legend, a French player named Lucien Laurent, made history when he scored the first ever World Cup goal during a match against Mexico. The tournament was a massive success. The local people of Uruguay loved the games, and soon the 2 best teams reached the final match, Uruguay and Argentina. The final took place on July 30th at the Estadio Centenario in front of a passionate crowd of 93,000 fans. But before the game even started, there was a major problem. Both teams brought their own ball, and both teams disputed which ball to use. Argentina wanted to use the Argentine ball, and Uruguay wanted to use the Uruguayan ball. The referee did not know what to do. Finally, FIFA made a unique decision. They used Argentina's ball in the first half and Uruguay's ball in the second half. With their own ball, Argentina played very well and led the match 2-1 at halftime. But in the second half, with the Uruguayan ball, the hosts made a great comeback. The stadium was a boiling pot of emotions. Days before the game, the atmosphere between the two neighboring countries became intense. Argentine fans rented tens of thousands of boats to cross the river to Montevideo. They arrived at the port singing loud songs and carrying fireworks. The local police were very nervous. They had to check every single fan at the stadium gates to make sure nobody brought weapons inside. When the referee, John Langenus from Belgium, agreed to referee the match, he was so worried about his safety that he asked for a special escape plan. He demanded that FIFA protect his life and prepare a fast boat at the port, ready to take him away immediately after the final whistle in case a riot started. And then there was the famous fight about the ball. The Argentine players believed their ball was lighter and better for passing. The Uruguayan players argued that their ball was heavier and stronger for shooting. The argument was so intense that the match almost did not start at all. When FIFA made the compromise to change the ball at halftime, the players went onto the pitch with angry eyes and a burning desire to win. The game was incredibly tense, and the score became 3-2 for Uruguay. Argentina attacked with all their power, trying to equalize. The clock was ticking, and there was only 1 minute left. Suddenly, a Uruguayan forward received a high cross in the penalty box. His name was Hector Castro. When Castro was a 12-year-old boy, he accidentally cut off a large part of his right forearm with an electric saw. People thought he could never play professional sports. But at that exact moment, in the 89th minute of the first World Cup final, Castro jumped high into the air. He headed the ball with incredible strength. The ball flew past the goalkeeper and hit the back of the net. The stadium exploded with noise. Uruguay won the final 4-2. The next day, the government declared a national holiday across the entire country to celebrate. After the glory of 1930, the world changed. A terrible war broke out in Europe and across the globe. Because of the Second World War, the World Cup stopped. There were 12 years of silence. No games were played in 1942 or 1946. The tournament finally returned in 1950, and Brazil became the new host. The Brazilians built the largest stadium in the world, the Maracanã. They expected to win their first trophy easily. In the final match against Uruguay, nearly 200,000 fans packed the stadium, singing and dancing. Brazil only needed a draw to win the cup. But Uruguay shocked the world again. They won 2-1. The stadium became completely silent. In football history, this tragic night is called the Maracanazo. Brazilians cried in the streets, but this sadness created a desire to build a new, stronger team. 8 years later, in 1958, the World Cup traveled to Sweden. And that was the year that football changed forever. The Brazilian team arrived with a young player who was only 17 years old. His name was Edson Arantes do Nascimento, but the world knew him as Pelé. He was thin, he was fast, and he possessed magic in his boots. Pelé became the youngest player to score a goal in a World Cup. In the final against Sweden, he scored 2 beautiful goals. Brazil won 5-2. After the final whistle, the young boy cried on the shoulders of his teammates. Pelé became a global superstar, and Brazil began their era of dominance. Eventually, Brazil became the only three-time winners of the tournament in 1970, which allowed them to keep the original Jules Rimet trophy permanently. The world of football has seen moments that feel more like a movie than real life. Think about the year 1986 in Mexico, when the legendary Diego Maradona scored two of the most famous goals in history against England in a single match. The first goal was scored with his hand, which he famously called the hand of God. Just 4 minutes later, he ran past 5 English players from the middle of the pitch to score the goal of the century. The world of football grew bigger and more popular every 4 years. It became a tournament of heroes and legends. But football history is not just about victory. It is also about shocking tragedies on the pitch. In 2014, the World Cup returned to Brazil. The country wanted to erase the ghost of 1950 and win the trophy on their home soil. Millions of fans wore yellow shirts, painted their faces, and gathered for the semi-final against Germany. The atmosphere was festive, but within 29 minutes of the first half, something completely unbelievable happened. The German team attacked again and again, scoring goal after goal while the Brazilian players stood frozen in shock. By the end of the night, the scoreboard showed a result that nobody in the stadium could believe. It became the most painful defeat in modern sports. Germany beat Brazil 7-1. Germany was like a perfectly tuned machine. They scored 4 goals in just 6 minutes. It was the fastest 4-goal streak in World Cup history. Television cameras showed Brazilian fans covering their faces with their hands, unable to look at the pitch. Grown men and young children cried openly in the stadium. The heavy loss was so painful that the Brazilian media named this match the Mineirazo. Germany went on to win the 2014 World Cup, while Brazil had to wait again. This match showed the world that in football, no team is invincible, no matter how famous they are. But the beauty of the World Cup is that it always offers a chance for redemption. Let's jump forward to December 2022 in the modern stadiums of Qatar. This tournament belonged to one man, Lionel Messi. At 35 years old, Messi won every trophy possible in club football, but he never won a World Cup for his country, Argentina. Argentina reached the final against France, the defending champions. It became the most dramatic final in football history. Argentina led 2-0, but the French superstar Kylian Mbappé scored twice in 2 minutes to make it 2-2. The game went to extra time. Messi scored again to make it 3-2, but Mbappé equalized again, 3-3. The match had to be decided by a penalty shootout. The pressure was immense. Millions of hearts stopped beating for a moment. But Argentina's goalkeeper made incredible saves, and the Argentine players scored their penalties perfectly. Argentina won the shootout. Lionel Messi fell to his knees. He smiled, wrapped in a traditional golden cloak, and finally lifted the Golden World Cup trophy into the sky. His lifelong dream was complete. Now let's look at the present. In 2026, the World Cup is being hosted together by the United States, Canada, and Mexico. For the first time in history, 48 teams will participate, making it the biggest tournament ever created. More countries, more players, and more stories are waiting to happen. From a rainy afternoon in Uruguay in 1930 with 13 teams, to a global mega event with 48 nations, the World Cup remains magical. It reminds us that for 90 minutes, we can forget our differences. The World Cup is not just a football tournament. It is the story of humanity, told every 4 years. What an incredible journey through sports history. The World Cup teaches us that football is much more than a game. Even though teams suffer painful defeats, because of passion and hard work, legendary players can achieve their ultimate dreams. When you learn English, remember that progress takes time, just like building a championship team. Keep practicing every day, and you will reach your goals. Thank you for listening with me today. You did a great job improving your listening skills and learning new vocabularies. Which World Cup moment is your favorite? Tell us in the comments below. Please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with your friends. Stay inspired, keep learning, and I will see you in our next episode.
Thank you for listening. Subscribe for more English Talks with Avie. You can explore more videos here. Thanks.